Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. And forgive me for being outside. So you might hear birds or the wind in the trees, and hopefully not any helicopters or aeroplanes, but it's too beautiful not to be outside. So here I am. And I'm delighted today to have another gorgeous guest. And it's Julie Heaton. And Julie is a mentor and she is an author. I'm just going to give you the titles of her two books because I think that'll set us up for where we're going to head with this. We're very much singing from the same hymn sheet, so I think you're going to love this episode. Her two books for her adult books are called The Manifestor's Playbook and The Manifestor's Workbook. She's also written children's books, which I do want to get into because I think bringing this energy and this awareness to children is where we've got to be. But for now, welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome. So, tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to be where you are? Presumably, you've been mentoring and working and doing this kind of spiritual work, inner work for some time, and then that's led you to writing your books. So,
Yes, that's
how did all
all
this begin?
correct. Well, I had a whole career, a corporate career. I
Mhm.
was a real driver, you know. At one point I had 130 projects I was working on at one time.
Oh,
I know. And
yeah.
I was a single mom. Um, so I felt like achieving and driving was what was going to make me happy. It was going to provide validation and support.
Mm.
And it was never enough. And at some
Mm.
point, I just realized, gosh, I'll tell you the exact point I realized it. I had the successful career, had the things, and the son I told you about, who I sent off to college. It wasn't an option for him. It was, no, you go to college, which I would rethink now. Anyway, he wasn't doing very well in college, and I flew up to give him a big lecture. I flew up to talk at him about it.
Mhm.
And I did. And he just looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, Mom, what's it all for? You're not happy. And that was like, I still get teary because that
Oh,
was
that's
like,
heartbreaking when your children really see you. That's just,
well, I thought he was seeing success, hard work equals success,
yes.
and you have the things you need, and you're going, like I had this whole thing about what it looked like to be a good mom, and that
Mm,
didn't include loving myself or being satisfied or being able to validate myself or even figuring out who I am. Who am I? So I had been on a spiritual journey all my life. I've always asked the questions, but at that point, I realized, wow, I don't understand anything. I don't even understand myself. And they are our kids are our greatest teachers. Our partners are our greatest teachers. And this kid of mine is an empath and he just feels so deeply. And that him saying that to me changed the whole trajectory of the rest of my life. And I ended
yeah.
up, it took a couple years and some therapy, to be honest. And I ended up leaving this corporate career
Mm.
without knowing what I was going to do. And I spent a year trying to feel not guilty about not having a schedule that was,
Yeah. Well,
excessively packed. My husband was so supportive of me, and he'd leave for work and he would say, "All right, honey, what are you going to do today?" And I'd be like, "Why?" I get real defensive because I
yeah.
didn't have a packed schedule. So I really had to sit in it and figure out who I am and what I wanted out of my life. I wasn't willing to go work for someone else or take a job, or I just really wanted to figure out what was going to make me me. Like, how could I discover who I am without all the layers of all the other people on me?
Mm.
We have to unravel our stories from everybody else's stories.
Also
I was
interwoven though as well, aren't they? Like our stories, everybody else's stories, our ancestors' stories, our kids, our parents, our partners, like everybody's stories impacts on us. But to unpick it and just sit solo is actually a really difficult thing to do. It's a challenging thing to do. Um, and it's not something you necessarily want to do full time because we are community animals. We are that sort of interactive energy that we have to have that. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on. It's fascinating.
no, no. I did sit in it. I it was painful and it took a long time to unravel. And you still unravel. The other day, about a month ago, I had this whole story in my head and I had to, I was like, that's not even my story. That's my mom's story. Like I don't need to carry the story anymore. I don't want it. And so I was able to unravel another little trigger of mine, you
Mm.
know. But in that time, in that process where I was kind of figuring out, taking everything off and trying to learn how to self-love and self-validate, I started I learned how to meditate. That was huge. I'd said I had meditated before, but now I dove in and got a ritual around it, and then I learned free form writing, which was one of the best things that I have ever done for myself.
Free form writing.
Yeah, when you just wake up in the morning, there's a book from Cameron, The Artist's Way, and she teaches us, and it's you just wake up or finish meditating, whatever your thing is, and you just start writing without thought. Uh, you're just spilling what's inside. No punctuation, no spelling, I mean, you look like a crazy person if someone read it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I did it every morning, and all this stuff came out that I didn't even know was in there, like stuck. And
Yeah.
at some point, after months, I went to my husband and I said, I think I'm writing a book. And he was like, okay, great. And that's how the Manifestor's Playbook came. I just channeled it. It was my story, but and then all the things that I used to kind of come out of this place I was in. So it was great.
That's wonderful. So you, the Manifestor's Playbook, this is such a hot topic, isn't it? Everybody wants to manifest. And there are so many people out there telling us how to manifest. Or you must do it this way, or you can't say that, or you must do it this way. But like I'm fascinated to know your take on this because I have my own ideas. A lot of my clients talk about, and I want to change my world. And so I know that like you have to start matching your vibration within you to the vibration of what you want to attract to you. And that's kind of one of the big things. Um, and then there's other people who use it, use mantras, and there's other people who use diaries and they write and they write and they write in the positive. And I've done that to great success. There's lots of different ways to manifest, and I've
Mhm.
tried a lot of them, and some of them have really been successful, and others not quite as successful. But tell me some of and how did you get to learn these techniques, or were they ones that you invented? What's your secret sauce?
My secret sauce. I truly believe the Playbook could have been called a little book of self-love.
Uh,
I believe you can't manifest what you want until you know who you are and what you actually want.
okay, so that's the game we've got to play. We've got to be, yeah, yeah.
I
We've
mean, we
is it
can
that?
manifest anything. We manifested this call together right now. Everything we do, every place we show up, everything is a manifestation, and we've done this. So the trick is to manifest intentionally. And to do that, you really have to know yourself and know what you want in your heart. People
Mm,
say, "Oh, I want a new house." Okay, great. You might really want a new house, but why? And
yeah,
is that going to
exactly.
change how you feel about
Yeah,
yourself?
because so many people go, everything will be better when.
When?
when
And
I've got a partner, I've lost the weight, I've moved
yeah.
house, I've got a better job, da, 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 da. And actually those things may happen and you go, yeah, I've arrived. I've got the new car. I've got I found a boyfriend or I've found but actually those inner things, those inner stories, those limiting beliefs, unless we've sorted those out and really sorted those out, they're going to still come back, whether you've got the big house and the BMW and the perfect boyfriend or not.
Mhm. That's true. We draw to us what we need to learn. So, where we are, that's why they say your partner is your mirror,
Mm.
because we drew our partner to us to learn what we still need to learn. They're reflecting back to
Yes.
us what we need to learn.
Exactly. Everybody in us, and everybody that we come across, are
Everybody,
everybody is a mirror.
everybody.
And
The guy,
something that I just really enjoy becoming aware of more and more is when people annoy you or when people delight you. Whatever they do, it's like, oh, and I say, what are they? What is that about? Yeah, love that.
my favorite thing now in my life is getting annoyed or getting mad because it tells me where I need to work. It's my trigger. It's like, oh, well, first I go, "Ugh," and then I go, okay, great. What is it that annoyed me? What do I need to learn? What do I need to look at in the mirror? And that just gives me my next thing, to root out my next story to unravel.
Yeah.
But
And that is such a gift to get to a point where you can get really annoyed about something. Like it's usually your partner or your kids or something, they'll do something that really winds you up, that hits that trigger button right on the nose. And off you fly down that same pathway that you've traveled a million times. And it's simply a neural pathway that has been well traveled. And but to find yourself on that path, but still have the awareness to go, "Oh, look at what you are doing to yourself. Just like take a moment and notice. And then just that little tiny moment of awareness, that circuit breaker of awareness is where the magic really begins. Because
and
there's no
that's the
massive
thing.
actionable step. There's just an awareness.
It's an awareness. It's a breath.
Yeah.
It's a breath you take before you speak.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, learning that was maybe I would blow up at my husband and I have to go back later and think about why did I do that? I don't want to do that anymore. And then I would start asking the questions. Am I really even mad? Is this something to be mad at? Is this
Mm,
just a cycle? I feel like I should be mad. I just
mm,
started asking questions around that anger or whatever the issue was. And the answer was usually, this is silly, like why would I? This is an old pattern that I'm ready to break. And
mm,
so taking the, then I learned to take the breath before I responded, like to him. Instead of just getting mad, I would take the breath and maybe even circle back the next day, if I needed more time,
mhm.
asking the same questions
Yeah.
of myself. Like, and maybe sometimes it was, yes, I'm mad. He should X, Y, and Z. But then I was able to have a conversation instead of just a outburst.
Yes, exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's the key, is just being able to understand how you can communicate what you're saying without it being a weapon, because we
Yeah.
weaponize ourselves so
Yes.
much when especially with our partners, unfortunately for them, like you make me do this and you sit in it, and it's
Mhm.
like we put all of it on them, and they're just like, well, I'm just like doing what I'm doing, and it's owning our own stuff. That's the major leap forward. And then you go, okay, so we were in this situation and I've started to feel this trigger, and and I can feel it within my body, and it felt like this, and I don't like that feeling,
Mhm.
so it makes me go down this pathway, and so I want to explain to you how this works for me. And then suddenly there's a conversation that's not just a blame or a shame type conversation.
Yeah, it's learning how to work with each other on an adult level, on a spiritual level, and saying, I know I own that. My conversations with my husbands are with husbands is I have one husband, by the way. With my husband is goes more like this, honey, that I know these are my feelings and I own them, but let me just tell you why I got upset, and then he can understand and try to enter conversations a different way, and I can understand where he came from. And our obviously, with my maturity in these conversations, our marriage has really evolved
Yeah.
into this wonderful thing. It's not to say we don't have times that we're upset, but they're fewer and far between. And I now realize with everybody in my life, if I'm true to myself, if I
Mm.
own myself and my feelings, and because I love myself, I can, it doesn't matter what you say to me, I
Mm.
can handle it and respond back with love.
Yeah.
So it's I tell everybody, I feel like we should go back to what is manifestation, and how does it work for people.
Yes. That was a
Um,
question a while back.
yeah,
Yes.
it was, yeah, but it is about self-love. Everything starts with self-love and self-validation. When we're not seeking approval, when we're not trying to be validated all the time,
Mm.
we can stop and see and witness the miracles of life, and be grateful. And so when you're seeking something like a new house or something like a physical manifestation, the the real trick is being grateful for what you already have. Like sitting in gratitude for what you have, and then feeling what it would feel like to have the next thing while being very grateful. Like, gosh, what a great life I have. I love my house.
Yeah.
I could see myself with a beachfront property, so let's just visualize that. But it
Yeah.
is it is all about the feeling, and you can't really create that feeling unless you really love yourself and know what you want. And I believe loving yourself will change the world one person at a time.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into that. This is one of the big old questions. And of course, it's heart chakra stuff, but it relates to others as well. How do, I mean, I've got a list I've compiled from all of the times that I've done this work and helped clients through this work. I've got this huge, big sort of document with all of these different techniques on how to find self-love. So let let I invite you to add to my list, Julie. Come on, what's the top tip for finding self-love?
Forgiveness and compassion for yourself, treating yourself like your own best friend.
Yeah,
Stop saying bad things about yourself. I'll tell you, I grew
forgive.
up in forgive. I grew
Mm,
up forgive past versions of yourself that
hmm
maybe weren't as loving, you
hmm
know.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family where looks were really important, weight was really important, and it was a big deal in my family. And even when I was super fit, I would look in the mirror and not like what I saw, you know.
Mm,
And I had to learn, one of the things I had to learn was to love my body. Why wouldn't we love these wonderful miracles that we get
mhm.
to borrow, that
Yeah.
God gave us? Like these things, these bodies that take us from here to there, and we could feel and we'd smell and we could taste, and we're going to be mad at it because we don't like our thighs.
All bodies are so beautiful.
So
And I think
beautiful.
I wish that this happened more often. And in our culture, it doesn't um, is spending more time naked around other people. And I know that sounds a little bit out there. And my American listeners might be, a little bit, well, yeah, I don't know, maybe it happens there as well. Of course it does. But when you go to say a nudist beach or you do, I don't know, like spend time with women in a commune or whatever, you're on retreat and you're in the showers or whatever, doesn't matter. And you realize that however somebody looks with their clothes on, they look completely different with their clothes off. And my God, every single body shape, every single body is incredibly beautiful. Like I remember that
Yeah.
recently I was on a retreat, and a group of women, all ages, all shapes, all sizes, we all went down to the beach, and some of us were too cold and didn't want to go swimming, and others did. And so they all just flung their clothes off and ran into the sea naked. And to watch all these beautiful wobbly bottoms, and we were like, as those of us chickens who were sat on the bench, not swimming, we're like, my God, isn't that just the most gorgeous sight? Like it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I don't think you realize, because we're in isolation a lot with our own bodies. We are just looking at us in comparison to the Instagram version of some, woman who may have hit the genetic jackpot and then also been airbrushed, you know.
Yeah.
And we're comparing ourselves to them, going, well, I don't look like that in those clothes, or I don't look like that when I'm naked. Like most sexual partners, whether that be a man or a woman or whoever your sexual partner is, enjoys the juicy whatever it is of your body. Like any man.
As as long as you do, as long
Yeah,
as you're confident
that's
in your
true.
body.
That's true. But I
Yeah.
think that you are just, if you accept that every piece of flesh is just delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, you're right. I feel like Americans are more uptight about our bodies
Mm,
and showing them, to the point where when I got together with my husband, keep in mind, I was like very fit, but I'd get out of the shower, put my robe on,
mhm.
right away, even around my husband. I thought he was crazy. He just walks around the house naked, sits down on the phone. You're like, I'm like, just walking around naked all the time. And that taught me something too. Like, why am I, what is it? What is it that I'm ashamed about? What is the shame I'm feeling about my naked body?
Yeah.
And I started doing, it sounds so corny and it feels uncomfortable at first, but every day of my life, I look in the mirror and I thank my body. I look naked in the mirror. I thank my belly. I thank my legs. I thank my everything. I thank my breasts. I thank my hair. I thank everything.
Mm.
And then I tell myself, I love you. I love you, Julie. You're doing great.
Yeah.
And every day. And that is a huge part of what transformed my opinion about my body, just being so grateful for it. So grateful. I just can't imagine. I mean, what a gift. And to look at it as wrong, or it just
No.
seems like blasphemy. Like,
It does. I agree with you. And there's another part of this is when women have just had a child, when we have a baby,
Mhm.
and you go, oh my God, my body's just completely gone to pot, and your belly's all wobbly and your boobs aren't where they used to be, and
No.
you're probably carrying a little bit of weight and things are just different. And I urge people to look at that body and go, that body just grew two eyeballs, a brain, a
Yes.
nervous system. Like, and you're going to tell it it's not right. What like
Crazy.
perspective on your body is so important. Like, if you are a mother, like your body, I like that. I don't know why it's eyeballs that always does it for me. I don't know. Like, you created the reproductive system of a person within your own body, and then you're going to chastise your body for not looking right.
Yeah.
No, our bodies are utterly magnificent. And I find that, like, bringing a bit of humor to it as well. So rather than just standing flat in front of the mirror and going, I love you, don't you look great? I'm like, throw a shape, find a pose, hello, gorgeous. Like, play up to yourself a little bit. There's a
I
Find
love
some
it.
joy and some fun in it.
Yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
love, but you're
You
so
know,
right. The
it's
self-love that does begin
crazy.
with loving this meat suit that we are inhabiting. And that's such a big part of the equation for so many people.
It just depends on where you are in your life, but it always seems for women to come down to their bodies
Yeah.
and shame around their bodies. And
Yeah.
then all the mental stuff, all the bad self-talk, people think that's normal. Like,
Yeah.
and I tell people you have to be as kind to yourself as you would your best friend. You are your best friend. You have to love yourself like nobody else, because that's in the end, it's you. You have to know you.
Yeah.
And that's tough for people. Um,
Mm. But I think it's another interesting thing to unpick here when you say, like, you have to learn to love yourself. Like, who's learning to love who? Like, there's a separation within because there's the higher self, the you that hears and that listens to all of the rubbish that the ego, this other person says. And I talk about this a lot in the work that I do, but I think that it's a really important thing to like, you know, I hate myself, like I and myself, like who are these two different, like this, or I'm disappointed with myself, like which bit of you is disappointed? It's like this extraordinary separation that we have within us. But when we
I
can
agree.
separate it out, we can have a little bit more depth of understanding of like why you're being so beastly to yourself and why that self-talk is negative and actually begin to unpick that from the inside out.
It's from the inside. I tell people they have to love themselves from the inside out. You're exactly right. But the thing you asked me earlier about what is my secret sauce, it's taking little bits at a time. So in the Manifestor's Playbook, it's very topical. It's taking the small, easy, low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
So it's teaching people that in 5 minutes a day, if you do something routinely and believe it, 5 minutes a day, it's going to change your life. If you
Mm.
take a, once you do that, if you take another good habit and start that, it's going to change your life even further.
Yeah.
I think people try to like go full force all the time with everything. And maybe that works for some people, but those of us that are trying to unravel our story and figure out who we are and what we even like, like, do I even like this? It's
It's a surprising
unwinding.
amount of time that we go, actually, yeah. We
Yes,
give
it's
ourselves a break.
unwinding.
Yes.
And then even bigger, how do you unwind and unravel when your family or your friends are trying to keep you this way because it makes them uncomfortable?
Yeah.
So there's all these things when you start to unwind your own story. You start to unwind theirs too, and they don't like, and sometimes people don't like it. And so
People don't like it very much, no.
no, it shakes up their world. So my secret sauce is taking it in small bite-sized chunks. And so yes, you're right. There is so many parts of loving yourself and who are you really?
Yeah.
Who am I and who am I? But the first thing is in this physical world is just starting in your mind, working on some of those mind problems, the things you say to yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the gratitude you can have for what you have in your life already. And then you can go deeper into, um, wow, um, is this my intuition speaking or is this my ego speaking? Like
Mm.
who am I really? Am I
Yeah.
my mind? No. You
Oh,
know?
no, you are
So
your mind, absolutely.
no,
And I think it's such an important thing to understand. Are you your mind? No. Are you your body?
no.
No. Both of those are huge, wonderful instruments that will inform you about who you are.
Yes.
And the body holds so much wisdom. And that's where my yoga practice and my somatic work comes in and the understanding of the chakras, because I feel like trying to work it all out in our beautiful brains can be a little bit challenging sometimes.
Oh, it's impossible. We can't.
So give that problem to the body as well. But yeah, I think it's we are not our minds, we are not our bodies,
Nope.
we are something else, and that's an adventure to find that out big time.
Yes. But you got to start somewhere.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and I was talking to a friend the other day. We were talking about we're going to put this retreat together, and we were talking about what we wanted and elements we wanted. And she was raised in a commune, like a really loving space where everybody got to be who they are and all these things. And there's three of us there actually. And I was talking about unraveling your story, and she goes, "Well, isn't I mean, like she didn't get what I was saying because she's never had to unravel all those stories." And
Mhm.
I said,
Wow.
I said, that is so beautiful for you. But most people have everybody else's expectations, who they are. We're born with expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And the
we're
minute, you're
the
sexist,
yeah,
announced, it's like,
the second you find out you're pregnant, you're born with, oh, he's going to be a lawyer, he's going to be whatever it is, oh, we're going to be best friends, whatever it is. All these expectations come upon this individual soul that is not you, that just comes through you. You know,
yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
thing about being a parent, or especially a mom. We have these little souls that grow in our bellies, and we create these bodies for them, but they're just passing through us. They aren't us, you
Yeah.
know? And it's hard to see that unless you're pretty evolved when you have this baby, uh,
Yeah.
you know?
Which brings me nicely onto your children's book. Tell me a little bit about your children's book. Is that disseminating the wisdom that little kids need to love themselves?
Well, I had the same kind of story with the children's books. I never meant to write children's books. It wasn't something that, oh, I want to write children's books. But I was in the bathroom at my house and I was getting ready, and a little bee flew through the window and buzzed around me, and the first book just came out. And once again, I ran out to my husband and I was like, "Oh my God, I think I just wrote a children's book." And he said, "Write it down." So that's how that all happened. It's The Adventures of the Fabulous Three. It's a series, and the first one is all about the magical little bee. And all three of the books talk about self-love and loving our environment and um, being grateful and unique individuals. All of them are just grounded and in that. And I do tell people, if I had been read these books when I was a little girl, I might not have had to write these books as an adult, you know?
No, aren't the children's books? I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm imagining we're sort of similar kind of ages. You're probably a little bit younger than I am, but some of the children's books that I was, able to read when I was not were horrific, like really traumatizing. But
Traumatizing.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
lovely children's literature around these days. But I mean, there was I don't know if anybody remembers this. There was a book called something called Straw Peter, where if Peter didn't do what he was supposed to do, like these horrific things, like really violent stuff happened. It
Oh,
was awful. And the illustrations were just as bad. Like they came and chopped off his fingers or something. I can't
oh
remember.
God.
Horrible. But this, but yeah, there was a real need for for the lovely good books. I mean, I did find the nice books after all, but there were a few quite disturbing books. And actually, interestingly enough, I think most of those were like even older than I was. Like they were they were sort of from the generation even before me. But anyway, still terrifying. We're still undoing all of that ancestral trauma.
Yeah. Well, that's it. There's a lot of trauma in our DNAs. We have our stories to unravel.
Yeah.
Then we have stories in our DNA from our grandparents and their grandparents to unravel.
Mhm.
Then we have all the stories from the people who raised us to
Mm.
unravel. It's just all these stories to figure out who you really are and how you want to show up in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. So, Julie, tell people how they can get in touch with you and how they can get hold of these beautiful books as well.
Everything's through my website, hellojulieheaton.com.
Oh, nice.
I currently just have chosen not to sell on Amazon. I might change my mind at some point, but I really like small businesses and I like to support myself and them. And so this is the way I'm going right now.
Okay.
It's just through my website.
So, hello, Julie Heaton. Well, from hello, Julie Heaton to goodbye, Julie Heaton. Thank you. I know
Thank you.
it's been a brief but really beautiful time with you. I'm so grateful to you for coming on and sprinkling your beautiful light and your wisdom. And do you do coaching clients as well, or are you just you do, yeah. So,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
retreats as well. Where are you doing a retreat?
Well, I'm actually working on my first retreat, and
Really?
I'm saying hopefully that's going to come out in next year. And it's going to be a combination of it's going to be a spiritual retreat with a combination of how to build your business.
Ah,
So I have both things in my life. I have a lot of wealth of knowledge,
yes.
and feel like that's what's missing in the market space right now. I think it could really benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I think um, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to build a business, spreading this good energy,
Hmm.
and they're not necessarily all of a corporate mindset with the experience that you
Right.
have. So that's a real gift. Thank you for
Yeah.
because yeah, that's needed very
I
much.
want to help people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, and all that information is still at helloJulieHeaton.com.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all there.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate meeting you. Really do.
Yes, I loved it. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.